have to do a quick intro. Hello and welcome to 646. My name is Dawson McManus. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks so much for Pet Rock for putting this out. That was loud for you, huh?
That was loud.
Yeah, I'll turn it down in post. But again, not really editing for content, just for levels. So we are joined today by Michael Bell, the creator of The Wire magazine, the founder of Bowie Lives, and a shit ton of other bands and organizations. Outshout?
Outshout Entertainment.
Outshout Entertainment.
That's the latest, yeah.
Yeah. And then what are we calling the New Year's thing for the Buble?
For the benefit of Market Hall.
Okay.
I've turned it into a benefit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, given the times and, you know, I want my name on the stage like David Goyette has his on Showplace. As when he said, "Oh, why are you doing a Market Hall show?" Because your name's already on the Showplace.
Right. Well, there you go.
That's a joke, but
yeah.
But no, we're going to raise some good cash for Market Hall.
Sweet.
And you know, like in all things, they need stuff.
Yeah. Oh, everybody does. What's the name of the Buble act? Because I know that the Adele one is Hello. What's the Buble one called?
MB.
Okay, so I was right.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I had told a few people that it's MB, but
yeah.
I was like, I might be talking out of my ass.
I don't know what the trail is. I think I've said it's like MB, the songs of Michael Bublé or something like that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Or Michael Bublé's greatest hits. I think that's what I've called it. MB, Michael Bublé's greatest hits.
Okay.
I think that's something like that. As opposed to like a full-blown tribute, because I'm not going to dye my hair and spike it up. And
You don't want to dye your hair?
No. No, exactly.
I don't know. That's what wigs are for, man.
Well, yeah. I'll be wearing a wig in another show, and that's going to be fun.
Right.
I ordered them last night. So
did you?
Yeah. The whole band. There's a couple of bald guys in my band that are going to be rigged up. It's going to be great.
Yeah, one of them's super excited about wearing a wig, huh?
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. You know who you are. Probably shouldn't talk too much shit.
What about that cut? Cut that part out?
Oh, no.
No.
He can hear it, and we'll talk about it. And I'll be like, yeah.
And it could be one of... There's a couple.
There's a few.
Who are we talking about? We
Could
don't
be
know.
anybody. Could be anybody.
Could be anybody.
Oh, my God. Yeah, so with The Wire, I'm curious how, what was the seed that made that? What even made you think to start that? Because I know you started in rock bands and stuff, but to start a publication is a very different undertaking.
Yeah. Well, how does it all start? It all starts when I came back to Peterborough in the late 80s kind of thing. And I convinced CKPT to produce a homegrown album with their CRTC cash, because I had just won the Q107 in Toronto. So I pretended like I knew how to do this.
Oh, okay.
Because I went, hey, I just want to... I had no idea. But I knew the Studio 29, because I had done some work down with those guys earlier. And at the same time, when I first came back, I ran a little nightclub, like a little after-hours thing called...
Oh, no way.
It was called Afterwards. It was on Hunter Street, where the Peterborough Art Collective is now, downstairs.
Oh, cool.
I rented that space. It was a Mexican restaurant during the day called the Aloha Coffee House, and they weren't doing great business, and kind of tucked away, in the back there. It was tough for them. And so I would lease the room at night from them, from Wednesday to Saturday, so 4 nights a week, from midnight until 4 in the morning, basically.
Oh, cool. Wow.
And we did live entertainment, and everybody played the room. Rick Fiennes and George Burtock and JP and all the guys in the day. I can't even think of all the bands that played. And they would take the door. We'd do a little cover on the door. And at night we served Mexican restaurant food, like Mexican nachos and burritos. They're the only two foods we had. And coffee. The guy who owned the restaurant had a coffee co-op that he was part of on the big island of Oahu.
Oh, cool.
Or Hawaii, not the big island is Hawaii, right? And so he would ship back coffee, like big sacks of Kona, which in the day there was no such thing as gourmet coffee. This was like, and we would brew it. He would grind it and like do the whole deal, roast it, grind it during the day.
Oh, wow. So they were raw coffee beans.
They were raw coffee beans coming in.
That's cool.
Absolutely. And it was just, this stuff was like nitro. People would come in at midnight and drink 2 cups thinking it was like, and then just be wired all night long, right? So we had a warning. Anyways, all the kids were coming in and playing. And as I got to know everybody, I realized that nobody had really had any studio experience. Nobody had done any recording. So that's when I thought, you know what? I'm going to get CKPT to do this thing, and we'll cook a deal with this studio I know, Studio 29, Andy Thompson in Campbellford. And so they traded him up some advertising or something. I don't know what they did. They paid him his bill or whatever. And then we made the record, vinyl. And then I did a couple of showcases. I closed down Simcoe Street, and we had a street party on Simcoe. And then we did like the showcase at the Holiday Inn that they organized. And so long story short, if it's not too late, we did a little program to go. So my buddy Rick Kemp, who used to be in Strobic Axe, he and I were hanging out and going to shows and stuff. And we made a little program to go into the showcase. So it was like a little 8.5 by 11 photocopy fold. And in those days, it was Letraset.
I don't know what that is.
So Letraset's like letters you rub off on a page, because there was no computer typesetting or anything like that in those days. Right?
So like almost like a carbon copy kind of thing? Or
It's kind of like, we used to get these in cereal when we were kids. It's like a plastic sheet, and then all the letters are reversed on it, and you put it down on the table or on your paper, and then you rub the letter off like this. So you go, there's an E, and then you look at and you go, okay, here's an F, right? And you make headlines like that, and then you typewrite and photocopy typewritten stuff.
Right, okay. Right? Wow, that would have been time consuming.
It's incredibly time. It's, again, how we made the first copies of The Wire that were huge art boards, like 11 by 17 plus art boards.
And you're scraping? Holy
headlines.
Shit, dude.
Yeah. Not like you wouldn't make a paragraph.
No,
like
not
that.
The article itself.
No, but headlines or
wow.
ads, when you had to build like, And then, of course, you're like, I got no more E's. So you'd run down to Brent Office Supply and buy another sheet,
Holy shit. And then you had to make sure that where you were leaving space for your typewriter chunk was accurate.
Absolutely.
Holy shit.
Or in the earliest days, we had a really chunky photocopier that went to 120, and I think it reduced to 80 or something like that. And so, you'd blow it up, and then you blow it up, and then you blow it up, and then you'd pass it to somebody who had a pen, who would then color it in, all the letters, because by the time you blew it up 3 times, it was just all chunky as, right? So you'd have to do it again with a marker. And like
that's
incredible
crazy.
labor. But anyway, so we did this program for the showcase.
Right.
And sold ads into it. Sold ads to my buddy Mike Tavroff at Moondance. I think, who else would have taken an ad in the day? Last Tango, which was a vintage store.
Like a clothing store kind of
Clothing
thing?
store.
Okay.
My buddy Dave LaValle owned Wampers in those days, pizza place. He took an ad. Like we sold a couple of $100 worth of ads or something like that.
Sure.
Which was like, And then Rick and I went off to see Alice Cooper at the Mem Center.
Nice.
And, just as citizens. And we came back that night to his place, and had a drink or whatever after the show and got talking. And basically it came out of us was, I bet you if we had something that Alice Cooper could advertise in, because who knew about that show? And, there was no print, blah, 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 or whatever. So,
right.
so the other part of the equation was that the CKPT homegrown album, the only way we were going to get paid on this gig was if we sold the record. We owned the vinyl. So we had to sell the record to make our money back. So how are we going to make the money back? And we went after local media. Peterborough Examiner wrote a story. There was a piece called the Peterborough Sun back in the day. Tom Whitby wrote us a story. But and they were all like, oh, homegrown bands make record. Like, it was all just like, like, this isn't going to sell this record,
Sure.
And bad headlines and, weak stories about, bands who were struggling. Like, it's just all that kind of bad. Anyways, so I said, I'm going to make my own newspaper, and I'm going to put all the guys who are on the album on the cover, one by one. And this is how we'll sell the album. So Peter Craig was our first guy, and good friend of mine who passed, decades ago. He was our first cover. And and then the rest is history, kind of, it just emerged out of there. The first year of papers was all like Hank was, Warsport Hank was on the cover, and Ken Ramsden was on Reverend Ken, he was on the cover of the first one, and I can't think of all the, Dennis O'Toole, who were all guys who had played the little nightclub thing,
of course.
made it to the record, who then ended up on the cover of The Wire. And then it just kind of grew out of that. And the bigger The Wire got, the bigger my interviews got, and the bigger the covers got. And the more people got involved, and the more offices I opened in different markets, and, rah. So 30 years of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's funny. I remember going on dates in high school to whatever the movie theater was at the time. I don't know if it was Galaxy at that point or not. Either way, there were racks that had Wire magazine in it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny to, like, we hang out almost every week. So it's like,
right.
I remember picking those up and seeing the bands on the cover and be like, one day. Because like I started playing super young, right? So there's always that that dream, which I'm sure we've all had, which is like, one day I'm gonna be on a magazine,
right?
Or
Cover
at least in it.
Stone.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, or at least in it.
In it.
And that was the idea, really, in the end. Like, I kind of, as a muso myself, I had a soft spot for bands. To give them, like, I used to always say, like, all you got to do is turn the light on a guy or a girl, and if they're gonna shine, they're gonna shine. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, they just need that inspiration that says, oh, I got a story, or I got a gig, and people liked me, and I'm moving on. I'm going to go buy another bass or another guitar or another thing, and I'm going to stick at this because there has been people are noticing.
Yeah.
So that was the intent of The Wire, was really about, as we were also helping develop shows and bands and showcases and festivals and all that kind of stuff in the background, was a way to just give every band their kind of like comeuppance of here's 50 words. Here's your picture, and here's 50 words.
Yeah.
Or 100 words about the gig you're going to do, or, a review of your CD, or, blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, by the time it kind of really gathered steam, a lot of those kids that we would have thought, let's put them on the cover became too big.
Right.
And so wasn't until like later, like in the 90s, I guess, 2010, trying to think of like later, I started putting locals back on the cover every once in a while that I thought, deserved it in the sense. I think like Lindsay Barr, she made our cover once, well deserved.
Yeah.
I can't think of who else locally, but for the most part, it was all, in the earliest days, I used to get paid by the record companies.
Right.
Like, one day getting a phone call from, can't think of the guy's name, but it's Sony. Hey, Michael, how's it doing? Hey, listen, I got Kiss rolling through the market. Do you want an interview with Gene Simmons for the cover? Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do want that interview. And I think they paid me $500 or something to sit on the phone with the guy for an hour and then get my cover and an ad inside and a big interview and all that kind of stuff to promote the new product and,
Right.
you know, blah, 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 blah. But that's how for a long time, all the covers were just purchased by the labels.
Yeah,
When
of
a
course.
band would come through or they'd have a new record or something like that. So not that I would care about a lot of the bands I put on the cover, you know.
Sure.
The joke used to always be, I'd say, "Oh, so hey, what do you want to talk about?" And then they'd go, "Well, have you heard our new record?" And I'd go, "I don't think I have actually." And, "Well, did you read the bio?" "Nope." You know, because I don't know who you are, Age of Electric or something. You know, like
Right.
these young kind of bands that I have no clue who they are. Like I would just get
Their big hit was Remote Control.
right, sure.
I love that song.
You know, I'm sure they were great too. Like, you know,
Yeah, that
I
dude
think
had a
I
killer
actually
voice.
hired them for a show once. I
Oh,
think
cool.
they played, what show would it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But, yeah, you know, which is a great, I think, much the way that you're conducting your interviews in
Yeah.
the sense that when you say that to somebody, when you say, "I haven't read anything about you,"
Yeah.
well, it's your job to now pitch me.
Yeah.
You know, tell me all about you.
Yeah. And you know what though? Sometimes not everybody will do that.
And that's where what's the expression? The wheat and the chaff, you know,
Oh yeah, where the wheat separated from the chaff.
and
Yeah.
the cream to the top, and all those metaphors, you know.
That metaphor, the cream rising to the top, has been so ruined for me by. Do you remember Randy Savage?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Macho Man.
Yeah, yeah.
There's this interview where he keeps pulling dairy creamers out of seemingly nowhere. He's like, "Cream always rises to the top, brother." Yeah, and it's just, dude, I got to show you this video later. It is hysterical. It was the dude. It was God. I was never a huge WWF guy. Well, WWE now, I guess.
Yeah.
I was never huge into it, but this one interview circulated, and when I was a kid, we were trading it on VHS. Because it was so fun for any of the young kids. It's a giant cartridge, like and it
The
had
VHS tape.
Tape, yeah, and it would go into not a VHS player. The player is called a VCR, and and you would put this giant cartridge in, and it looked like shit and it sounded like shit. But that's how we watched film and television if it wasn't airing live. Anyway,
That's your history lesson, kids.
yeah, we didn't have the internet. But we didn't have to scratch letters onto pages. We did have, we had a very, very, very beginner version of Microsoft Word by that point, I think. Maybe. I
Right.
don't know, actually. Because, like, what was it? Windows 3.1
Sure.
was a hot commodity when I was, like, 8 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I remember when Windows 95 came out, and you're like, whoa, look at this.
Yeah, totally.
Dude, like, and just, it's so funny talking about, like, the amount of memory that a computer could hold. You know, you're like,
Yeah.
this has
256 megabytes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like,
not gigs. Yeah.
yeah, gigs. Yeah, now that's even 256 gigs now is nothing.
Well, listen, when we used to, the first issues of The Wire, when you're talking about The Wire, first of all, no internet. Mm-hmm. So you want to write a real in-depth story, which we did.
Yep.
You know, we wrote stuff on the Afghani War at the time.
Oh, really?
And the Gulf War and a lot of environmental stuff. You'd send somebody to the library.
Right.
Who would spend days sifting through source materials to try to write a story. Yeah, no, like Google, hey, how many, you know, what's the status of, you know, or a rapper, you know. The other part of the story would be, in the days we started, I talk about Letraset, there was one guy who had a laser printer in Millbrook, right? And
You had to make the drive?
we had to make the drive, and we had to lay it out. We'd put it out on big 5-inch floppy disks.
Right.
That were, you'd load it in, and then it would say, you know, put the next disc in, put the next disc in. So if one of those discs was screwed,
You lost
You were
the whole
driving
thing.
all the way back to Peterborough to download it again on, to take it back. And that happened a couple of times till we finally got our own, laser printer and Harvard graphics. We were like, way above everybody. I don't know, somebody grabbed a boot of this somewhere. If you can imagine a boot back in those days. This is like 1990, right?
Right.
And
Jesus, I was 5.
yeah, exactly. And it had 5 fonts.
Wow.
I know.
That's
right?
so cutting edge.
I know, it was totally cutting edge. Just suddenly, like, we had country and western, like square serif, there's, look at that font, in a handwritten font. And
Right.
And then
something that
Swiss.
looked like graffiti art or something. Yeah.
5 of them.
Yeah.
So the paper, if you look at the first issues, the first year of The Wire, it's all got, like everything. If it's a country ad, then it had country and western,
Yeah.
square serifs, and if it was anyways, but yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's pretty, it's kind of amazing to see in such a short period of time just how much the landscape of technology has changed. It is kind of, the fact that we're doing this in my house is crazy. Right?
Yeah.
People are going to be able to watch this.
Yeah, or Mark Maron, does his garage and gets a Barack Obama to come in and
Right.
sit, right? Like,
Yeah.
Insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, former president of the United States, come to my garage.
Unbelievable,
and
right?
hang out.
Yeah, and just hang out. Yeah.
It's like, okay, what is it that you do? I tell dirty jokes.
More or less.
I say the F word a lot.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
I tell you my story more than I'm listening to your story. That's Maron.
Yeah, Maron is.
He's a talker.
Yeah, there are a few podcasters that are a little rough for that. You know what? I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
I have found that I revert to that if somebody's not giving me enough.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, we got to fill this air with something.
Well, I'm lucky that all my interviews were print because you never get that stuff.
Right, yeah, there's...
But you could read some of my interviews where the guy's just giving me the one answer, like, yep.
Yeah.
So, God. You guys are excited about the new record coming out? Yep.
Yeah. Just like, and then what happened?
Yeah, then what happens, exactly.
Come on, man, I'm trying to help you here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's the 5.25 inch. Is that what they were? Because there's a 3.5 and 5.25.
Yeah, they were the big ones.
Yeah,
not the big ones. Not the 12-inch floppies.
Oh, dude, and even before that, those punch cards.
Well,
do you remember the punch cards? Those are crazy.
I mean, in public school.
Sure. Yeah.
But
my dad used to collect old school computer technology, so shit that would have been seriously obsolete by the time I would have seen it, we still had it for some reason because he was so into it.
Right.
But it was pretty cool. But I do remember having to do the smaller one, the 3.5 or whatever that was.
Yeah, the hard plastic ones.
Yeah. I remember those.
They were great when they came out because they didn't bend.
Right, yeah.
And the other ones bent.
Yeah, not exactly durable.
It was so easy to damage them. Yeah.
And then the zip disc was the next kind of big thing. And then, I don't know, pretty much, oh no, the writable CD. That would have been next.
Yeah.
So did you notice a big difference when burning CDs kind of came into play? Did that affect you guys at all or not really?
Well, I mean, it allowed us to archive issues, which I still have. I did for years, I used to do a thing called the Wolf Wire Independent Spotlight on the Wolf.
Right.
And where I would interview a local band and we'd play a song, and I had like a 5-minute spot, I guess, every Thursday or something like that. So.
Oh, cool. When was that?
That's a good question. Late 90s.
Oh, okay.
I think late 90s, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. It's all a blur. But we used to do it in my office like this, like we're doing.
Yeah.
And then I would burn it and just give them a CD.
Nice.
So that made a big difference. And then of course people just, like in the earliest days, graphics and things like that, because you would go out and buy clip art discs in the day, right? So buddies would just burn them and then share them around that were in the graphics business and stuff. So you might and you'd go, wow, I got 70 new graphics, or I got 4 new car graphics, that kind of thing. So that was always pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Again, like people who grew up with the internet have no idea what it was like before the internet, where the whole world was at your fingertips and you could just, yank whatever you needed offline in seconds. Like,
oh yeah, it is
arduous for us.
It's a very convenient world we live in now.
Oh, unbelievable, compared to for so many disciplines and
yeah. It's shoot, like I know I talk about martial arts probably too much on this show, but like shit, man, I can look up a walkthrough on how to get a specific choke for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So the next time I go to train, if we're sparring, it's called randori for Jiu-Jitsu. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I can go in and I can try a new sneaky technique that nobody else in the class has seen me do yet. It's where'd you get that from? It's like, YouTube, which is crazy. YouTube University is like
it's unbelievable. I fixed my washing machine not so long ago by looking, washing machine leaking.
Right.
Search.
Yeah. Or like figuring out lyrics to a song.
Oh, well.
Right.
Oh, listen, I'm still battling, because with the Bowie show, a lot of the songs that we do and the earliest stuff is stuff that I learned as a kid under the phones.
Yeah.
So, back in the day, you would lift the needle and you would go back and go, what did he say there? And you were sure you had it. And then, of course, the internet comes along and it becomes, in the world of missung lyrics of all time kind of thing, So I'm still battling some things where I'm going, okay, I finally have the right line, and now I have to train myself not to sing the thing I've been singing for 40 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Turn it around,
Oh yeah, dude. Unlearning is so much harder than learning something the first time. Yeah,
exactly.
Dude, so actually it's really funny. I was teaching Money by Pink Floyd, and I was convinced that the whole song, other than the guitar solo, I was convinced that the entire song is in 7/4. And because if you only count in 7 for the bass line, absolutely everything lines up. And for a long time, I just wouldn't pay attention to what anybody else was doing but my part, which luckily,
a minute and a half in, you're thinking, oh, this is just gonna keep going like this.
And I thought I was right 20 years ago, so I just went, okay, fine. And then I start teaching it to but I'm teaching the guitar part to a student, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, holy shit! It's 2 bars of 7, then a bar of 6, then 2 bars of 4, and then back to 2 bars of 7. I was like, no way! I've been counting this wrong my entire life. Holy shit!
Right.
I felt like such a dunce because I'd shown him the previous week. I was like, yeah, the whole thing, because one of the guitar lines just matches the bass line, but then I start learning the other guitar parts because there's 3 layered guitar parts. Anyway, I'm listening to it like, holy shit, that doesn't make any fucking sense if you count the whole thing in 7, especially when you start listening to the drums. It's like, no. So now I'm trying to recount it and show him the right way. And same sort of deal. It's like, I've been doing it like this for 20 years and I got to rewind it basically. It's like, oh, okay, hang on, man. I'm going to fuck this up a lot. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, when you thought you had it on autopilot.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking about it again.
Yeah. And in one way I did. Unfortunately, it was the wrong way.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, So we all suffer from that. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, hilarious though when you.
I mean, learning as a segue to New Year's Eve.
Right.
When for me going back in on a lot of this Bublé stuff, where he's singing standards like Under My Skin or something, like I've been singing that, the Sinatra version, forever and ever, or everybody sang it, Dean sang it, like, and I fan of all of those guys, and then now I'm under the phones like going, okay, I gotta sing this, like you gotta phrase it out like Bublé does, and no, he doesn't sing that note that Sinatra sang, and blah blah blah. So and you get a bit, I'll admit I get a little lazy on it and go, I'm gonna give you a kind of like a hybrid Bublé, Sinatra, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett sort of
interpretation
through the eyes of Michael Bell,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it doesn't say tribute on the poster.
Well, this is my point, right?
So,
it's the songs of,
Yeah.
And not all his songs, like it's just some of the songs that he's brought back
Yeah.
to life,
Yeah. Well,
stuff
I mean,
like Under My Skin,
Yeah, and really, I mean,
Sway.
his biggest claim to fame is all of his Christmas stuff, and those are just old
Yeah, of
Christmas
course.
standards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
and I think he does
exactly.
a great job of all of them.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he's awesome.
I mean,
but-
that's why we're doing the material. Like,
Well, yeah.
It's fun and great.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I will say I love the arrangement of it's the slow blues. It's that Andalusian progression.
You Don't Know Me?
No, dum, da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum,
Right.
ba-da-da-dum. Feeling good.
Right. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I had to I had to cycle the whole
Yeah,
progression
exactly.
before I
Just
could
sing
get it.
through it. What's the chorus?
Yeah, it's like, where's
Yeah.
that hook?
Yeah. Which, of course, is such an old song
Oh,
and
yeah.
been done a million times
Oh,
and a
yeah.
million different ways, right? So,
But that arrangement is sick.
yeah, the horns.
Oh,
That's
so great. And
That's
then,
why we're adding horns.
Yeah.
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 Because
That'll be really fun.
Yeah, it will be really fun. We had Mr. Beauclair and I today had a good conversation about
Nice.
the addition of the horn guys, and we got them all lined up, and
Sweet.
so we can talk about that later. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
It's funny to get that jazzier sound. I haven't done side thumbing since college. I had a gnarly blister.
I bet.
I had the gnarliest because I've been
That's
doing
a soft spot.
Yeah, well, I've been doing either just fingertip or flat picking for 10 years, and then it's like, well, I haven't played jazz since school. It's like, oh, time to get back to it. And
These are flat wounds.
yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, I didn't want to switch to flat wounds before because, and I do own multiple basses, but I really like my Warwick.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to put flat wounds on it until after all the Bowie stuff was done.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's not going to sound right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I don't even know that that's what the guy's using on this.
Well,
you could look it up on YouTube or the internet. I bet you could just ask.
well, any of the stuff that sounds more flat wound are the standard. The covers of the standards,
Right.
The poppier stuff, though, they all sound like round wounds.
Right.
So that's the other thing too. I don't want to be switching basses all through the show.
No, sure.
I'm just that's why I'm doing like the palm mute with the side thumb and just fucking with my tone knobs and stuff like that. 'Cause it's
Right.
like this is gonna get us like 70% of the way there
exactly.
tonally, and then that way I'm not going, well, pause the show, everybody. I need to change my bass for the exact right
Yeah, yeah.
timbre because
Yeah.
that's obnoxious. So
Yeah.
what I would love to get, but I don't know if they exist, and because I've been looking for them, but I can't find anything that says like, yeah, this is what you need. I would love to get a pedal that emulates like a fretless sound. I think that would be sick if one of those existed.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if it does,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've been looking, but I haven't found anything convincing.
Right.
So, but that would be sick because then I could just click and then I would have the sound that I'm after. But
Could do a Joni Mitchell tribute then too.
oh wow, that would be sick, dude.
Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. Do that album. Let's see classic albums do that.
Dude, she had such killer bands for
Oh
a
my
while.
God.
Like,
Oh my God.
dude, Pat Metheny, Jaco Pastorius. fucking-
Mingus is one of the
Oh.
all time. I mean, they're all great. They got a bit poppy towards the end and stuff, and the songwriting became a bit predictable. But those
I still like
earliest
it.
stuff,
Oh yeah,
Don Juan's, Hajira, man, oh man,
it was so.
listen
Different.
to that around and around and around. In my day, that would come to you on a cassette in your Walkman. So
Right.
all you'd have is like, maybe a couple of cassettes on you walking around, and you just keep flipping the tape, flip the tape, flip the tape, flip the tape. So you'd end up listening to Hajira 15 times or something
Right.
in a
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
right? Because that's just the way it is.
Yeah, we had the Discman,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
so it would skip all the time, especially
yeah,
if you're,
no, I know it well too. I've got a lot of those. I know them still.
especially if you're trying to listen to, I don't know, what was in my Discman a lot, mowing the lawn, Clumsy by Our Lady Peace.
Right.
I listened to that album a lot, but holy shit, because I'd listen to it cutting the grass or delivering papers, and it would, oh my god, dude, it's just like every song is just like zip, zip, zip,
Yeah,
zip, zip.
yeah. No, I know it was a developing technology. Thank goodness it went to hard drive, small hard drives in your pocket or something.
Yeah. Well, even that, man, like the iPod is
like the shuffle.
It's like totally obsolete now, which is crazy.
Oh, I know. Like the whole thing. I mean, the iPod's in your pocket online, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
Kind of the same in a weird way.
Yeah.
But you're not loading anymore.
Well, exactly. It's just, you just pull it at, I don't know, the speed of desire.
Although, like, I mean, I download a lot of playlists just so that when I'm out of range of the internet, or like if I'm out on my motorcycle or something,
right.
Then I'm just going to listen to music for 3 hours while I'm riding or something like that. I often just do it offline, and that way it's not eating my data. Not that that's even a concern anymore, but back in the day it was.
Yeah. I know it's so crazy now.
I know it is so crazy.
I can't even remember the last time I came close to my data limit.
Never.
And
I'm unlimited.
Oh,
like,
okay.
and I'm just like, how do you, like, I mean, I get it. I think at some point they start to throttle me, but
sure.
But even in that, it's like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, and something I do love about it too is like, you can find an exact gear rundown of your favorite players. You can find out every piece of equipment that they use.
Everything's there
to get whatever sound you're looking for, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now, you're still not going to sound like them because that's who they are.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge part of it. But you can get pretty goddamn close now.
Listen,
it's wild.
The Line 6 technology, right? Like, I have one of their amps, and
sure.
And you plug your guitar into it, go on your phone, and then go, okay, I want the sound that Mark Knopfler's Dire Straits guitar sound, and there's 50 guys who've like dialed up their sound and loaded it up to the database, and you just pick one and you go, okay, great, there it is. You just start dialing in and you're sitting there with a 335, like a hollow body, and it's sounding like an SG or something.
Yeah.
I know.
It's so insane.
It is. It's too much, quite frankly.
It can be overwhelming for sure.
Well, I think part of the the explosion, like I think about when I started off, and I mean, there's guys obviously older than me that still have memories too, of playing out there in the earliest days. For me, in the earliest days, there were only a handful of people in Peterborough that played.
Right.
Like, there weren't a lot of bands. There was maybe 10 or 12 bands or something, and everybody, really?
Yeah.
And everybody cycled around. And I saw it with having the wire in the earliest days. Like, from the time I did the first CKPT, and we got maybe 30 submissions. And then 2 years later, I did the Wolves CD, their homegrown thing, because CKPT stopped doing theirs. They did a second year on their own, and I don't know what happened to it. They just didn't follow it up with the third year or whatever. So I went over to the Wolf and got them to do it for exactly the same thing, CRTC commitment. John Eaton and I, and we probably had 200 bands submit.
Holy shit!
And then I watched it, over those 30 years with the paper. I just watched it go from a handful of players to just way too many players. And I think what ended up happening was that the technology just sort of started allowing anybody to do it. Because when you started, you had to play.
Yeah.
You couldn't make a record in your basement with beats and
like looping and stuff like that,
or whatever, like
sampling
all the things, or I mean, the technology was pedals for guitar players, right? Like, get a big muff fuzz or something, and suddenly that was a sound that lasted you for 2 years, or and created your whole sound of your band or something over this one pedal, and
sure.
But then as all the and then when it became like, here's a pedal that has all these things in it and all that, and then all of a sudden just everything became less about your ability to perform and play with what you have, and more about keeping up with the next guy who has like this incredible sound. And now, of course, it's just, you don't even have to learn how to sing. You can just auto-tune everything you do, and you can sound great.
Yeah. Well, I do think that stuff like that has a higher likelihood of being exposed in a live performance environment, unless you're basically lip syncing to backing tracks, which tons of people do too.
Yeah, well,
So-
but it also just, like, what my point being is, it just increased the number of people who thought that they could do this and make a living, or whatever their dream was, whatever they thought the outcome of dedicating this much money and time was to the craft of music. In the old days, people just didn't think that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, they were players and they were oddballs for being players,
Yeah.
for being in a band, or whatever, thinking that was a scene.
Yeah.
And there was just a handful of dudes, and where now it's, 72% of the population thinks that they have the ability to be a rock star or something,
Yeah. And then you actually hear some of them play and you're like, mm-mm.
Yeah, no, I know, but they're still out there crowding the landscape.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the problem, in the weird way. Like, I used to always say, like, oh, well, people can learn. Yeah, well, that's the last thing we need, is more people learning how to play guitar. Like, you either pick up a guitar and start playing it, or, you don't know, it's not in you, and somebody has to teach you. And that's not to say that isn't a great thing to learn how to play an instrument, but, like, stay out of my, don't be booking rooms now that I can't book with real shows, because there's all the, and of course, like, on the level that we're dealing with, we're not getting that kind of stuff happening, because there's a considerable nut to be overcome. So people aren't just, renting theaters with their garage bands.
Yeah.
But they're in the band, they're in the pubs, they're in the thing. They're taking gigs away from sometimes from people who are really trying to make a go of it,
Maybe, but I feel like the ones that, if you can't do it, you will be found out.
No, it's true.
So
but you're still crowding the landscape and
Yeah,
taking opportunities away from people at the same time, right?
Very temporarily.
I think because people think, like, oh, I would like to be a rock star. Like, this is part of their, or a movie star. Like, this is all part of our, our problem.
Obsession with fame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Like, people want to, if you ask most kids, what do you want to be? They'll just say famous. They won't say, I want to, like, when I was a kid, what do you want to be? I want to be a musician.
Right.
When I was younger.
I want to be rich.
Yeah. Like, well, for what?
Yeah, exactly.
What got you there? Why are you going to be rich?
Yeah.
It's just like, well, I don't know, just rich. As but
all the hats I've worn in my life, I came back to music. Why? Because it's still the thing I do the best.
Sure.
And it always has been since I was the littlest kid. It was always a thing that was steeped in, my grandmother used to say, I'd wake up with my toe tapping, that.
Sure, yeah.
And it was the thing that defined me from the word go.
Sure.
And so then I always understood, okay, well, that's who I am. I'm a musician.
Yeah.
Despite all the other things I've been in my life, if I was to pick a path, which I did, at the end of my career, at the end of my time, I'm back to music, because that's, in my mind, it's the thing I do the best.
Sure. Yeah. I always felt like I didn't have a choice.
Other choices. Right?
Yeah. It was like, this is all I ever wanted to do.
Right.
Like, the amount of stuff I would blow off so I could go play music is almost everything.
Right.
Like,
right.
I barely made it through high school. Barely. But then when I went to college for music, I was pulling like a 92 average.
Right.
Because it's like, this is exactly
where
what
I
want.
belong.
Yeah, this is what I remember the first day I was walking through it was the F wing for the music kids at Mohawk. This is when they still had a performance program. I think it's all music business now, unfortunately. There might be a recording program there still, but I'm not sure. Anyway, that's an aside. I was walking down the hall and I heard kids talking to each other, doing like, and they're like, oh yeah, and then I was like, oh my God, these are my people.
Yeah,
you know, it's
right,
like, I
right.
totally know what this is. You're fucking weirdos just like I am.
Yeah, right.
And you know, and there's some other kid walking down the hall that's some other kid's like scatting like a very specific line from like a Nina Simone song or something. And then that kid's belting out the Beatles at the top of his lungs. And, you know, I was like, oh, yes. Oh my God, this is real for me. This feels like family. This is home.
Right.
Like
of course.
Immediately.
And that's the great thing about the band thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been a solo guy too, not successfully by any stretch, you know, because I don't have the chops to play and be a solo guy. And that I can play, but, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
hoping people are talking.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
But you know, when you get into a good band like we have with the Bowie show, you know, everybody's a rock star, everybody's a super character, everybody's really nice and considerate of each other and the world and all that kind of stuff. And you feel like that. You come together and it's like, they're cousins, like everybody, you know, brothers and sisters, and you get that vibe, and especially when you're on stage in battle, doing battle basically, you know, and you know, that's a certainly, and I can see with anybody who is a player who wants to be in a band or wants a music career or something like that, how that can be so enticing.
Oh, it might be one of the most alluring things I've ever felt.
Yeah, and in the same way, it's like take all of those same players, put them on stage by themselves, and see how much they like this, experience. Right? It's a very different experience.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of, for me personally, of doing the solo thing. I really like the collaborative. I don't know. I don't like being alone. I'm just way too, because even when I am alone, I never shut up. I'm always talking, and I talk out loud to myself.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You've talking to yourself there, Mr. McManus. Yes. That's how I
on
think.
The road with you, Dawson. So.
Yeah. Just sitting in the back, and then I play this part.
Listen. I'm no different. I'm also a talker.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
But and I would just rather. I guess what I'm trying to say, I'd way rather be talking to someone else than myself. I already know all of my stories.
Sure.
You know?
Well, and the thing about playing solo is it's so exposing.
Yeah.
Like you really, as a player, as a musician, you really, I'm speaking for myself, is that the moments that, I'm wondering whether my playing is up to snuff or whatever, and there's all these moments of self-doubt for me when I'm playing by myself, and
sure.
And I got offered a gig, pretty good gig the other day as a solo guy, and I just said I can't do that, like it was a show. It wasn't a lounge or a cocktail or a dinner hour or a pub or something, It was like, oh, we'd love you to come and do like a show for us, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
If if the budget's there, I can find a piano player, I'll bring one, and then I'll give you something, and it's now a duo, but in terms of me sitting behind the piano and trying to, I don't know. I could tell you this. So when I first came back out, one of the very first pieces of big press I got was a full page in the Toronto Star and in the Saturday Star. And it was because I was coming out to do Bublé.
Okay.
And so it was this. So the Star, I can't think of her name, Trish, somebody. Anyways, she came down with her camera crew, and we met in Dundas Square, and she did the interview, and then they filmed me and took pictures, and I was playing. I brought a little, battery-operated monitor and some bed tracks.
Nice. Oh, okay.
And I was just singing over, some karaoke bed track kind of stuff, out while they got some film and all that kind of stuff. And why am I going down this road? Why am I telling this story?
Being a solo player is very exposing, and it was the first big piece of press that you got coming back to performance.
Yeah. So, I don't know why I was going down this road all of a sudden. But I mean, I don't know. All of a sudden it was, about playing alone or something. And, got it.
Okay.
So So I was playing this weird little club on Roncesvalles every once in a while, and Rob Phillips was coming, who was instrumental in helping me get up and going again, wrote out the charts for me about the Buble stuff that we were doing, and that's what I was kind of doing, was I was gonna, we started like as the duo thing, and then I put a band together, and then we went out and did some theaters and a few club lounge gigs and all that kind of stuff. So I get this article, it comes out, and that night, is it that night? It almost was, right? I'm playing. This is why they gave me the story, because somebody had seen me singing in this club, Gate something something on Roncesvalles with Rob, and we were nailing it, because when I'm sitting on a stool, as like when I'm sitting on, and I'm not thinking about guitar parts or anything else, and I'm just eyes closed, letting her go, I'm knocking people out. Sure. Occasionally, and so somebody from the Star was at a gig that we had done at Roncesvalles and gone back and said, you got to go see this guy. And then she did this big article and we did this big thing. And that night I was by myself playing the piano in this pub, jazz lounge act thing or whatever, right?
Right.
And I was just starting to learn how to play piano.
Right. Okay.
So I was really, really like blocking it out,
Sure.
And doing my best and all that kind of stuff. Well, the place packed.
Oh, no.
Because of the story.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody came, and it was like, people on the outside looking in, like it was just jammed, and I was shit. I'd be stopping in the middle of the song because I'd be like, I'm looking at the music, but I'm like, oh my God, where, I'd be trying to close my eyes and sing, and then, oh my God, where am I? And then I had to stop playing and try to figure out where I was, what's the next chord and everything, and I could just see people just slowly backing out of the store,
Oh God!
Oh, it was horrible,
dude. You're making my palms are starting to sweat.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Fuck.
But dude. In classic MB, I deceived myself and continued on thinking I was great, and then admitted it on the way home that, man, that was horrible. That was just horrible.
Dude, I mean, in order to, I genuinely believe, to become successful in music at all, you have to be a little bit delusional, especially in the beginning. Like,
oh my goodness!
To think that you can make a significant living, like enough to support yourself and your family on music. Holy shit! You got to be a little bit off your rocker. The
first lie you tell yourself.
Oh yeah, so I totally make this shit work.
Look at Gene Simmons; he makes tons of money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, yes, he does.
I better get an action figure.
Yeah, right? But like, oh, yeah, dude, I have stress dreams about that shit. I legit, if I'm unprepared for stuff, I have the same recurring stress dream where I'm on stage, and the band will always change depending on whatever show that I'm not ready for that's coming up. And the nightmare is that I'll play or sing one wrong note and everybody just stops and just kind of looks at me, and I'm trying to keep it going. I'm just like, huh, what? Right. Oh my God. And it's not booing. It's not even, it's just dead silence and fucking judging eyes. And just like, oh God. And that story legitimately, my hands got wet.
Oh, it was such a drag, too, because it was such a missed opportunity, right? Like, if I had had Rob there at the time, we would have knocked it out of the park. But
sure.
No, not there. He was busy or something, and I just did it on my own, thinking, I never imagined that the story was going to, because actually it was supposed to come out earlier, and then all of a sudden it got pumped to the Saturday Star and full page, and I wasn't expecting anything like that, because... I mean, who am I? I remember asking her at the time, why are you interviewing me? Like, I haven't been on the scene for 30 years.
Sure.
Like, I was just coming right back out of nothing. Like, I was still, as I sometimes still do, resting on, I won a Q107 in 1984, like, whoa, wow, well, that must have been something then,
Right, sure.
But, why... And I'll tell you, this goes out to any young performers that are listening to this, is that You know, I've always understood that to get the media to pay attention to you, you have to create a good narrative. You have to create a story. You have to have something that sets you apart. I certainly learned it as 30 years as an editor-publisher.
Right.
When I would see 100 press releases come across my desk that would all say the same thing. New band puts out new record with new single, and they're going on tour. And that was everybody's story.
Yep.
And so you were always looking for, like, who's got the weird-ass story. So for me, the weird-ass story was, you know, at the height of my career, I stopped, came back to Peterborough, got married, started a bunch of businesses, and didn't sing or play, you know, other than just some, you know, fun pubby kind of stuff with buddies or something like that. But no seriousness. Like, I wasn't investing time or money or anything, or have any aspirations to go out and play or anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
And when I asked her, after the interview, I said, I can't help but wonder why you're interviewing me. Like that's like a full page entertainment Saturday Star. This is coveted. Yeah. This is like the most coveted piece of press you can get in the country of Canada. The Saturday Star goes from coast to coast.
Right.
Right. It's not like I was expecting a blurb.
Right.
30 words. The guy's good and he's playing at this place and some little dumb picture. Not like this huge, a
spread
treatment. Well, it wasn't a spread. It was just a full page. It was 2/3 of a page. It was story below it, but just a little, a thing. It was massive. It was a massive thing, and I wasn't expecting it at all. But when I asked her, why, she said, because I just love your story. I love that you met the girl of your dreams, came off the road, did all these things, and now at the, in your twilight years, I was 55 or something at the time,
Right.
In your twilight years, you're decide to come back out and live the dream that you gave up as a young guy or something. She goes, that's the story.
Right.
She goes, I don't care what the fuck you're doing, like in terms of your music or whatever. Good luck, you know.
Sure.
Right? But no, that was the story. She saw it as an inspirational story for others to live to, and try to get to their dreams and never give up and all these kind of, narratives. So I say that because, again, as a young performer, we've done it with the Bowie show, like you create an interesting storyline.
Yeah.
Through your media and your placement about who you are and what you're doing.
For sure.
And then people pick up on it. The Bowie show, nobody can figure out, outside of, we got a great publicist, but nobody can figure out why anybody wants to talk to us.
Yeah.
And in any market, we'll get a couple of radio interviews, 2 or 3 newspaper interviews, some podcasty stuff, I probably did 50 interviews this season,
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Because they're interested in the story.
Yeah.
It's not a story about a tribute band. It's a story about, me and Bowie and involving the community and the Bowie Bazaar and getting dressed up. And, there's all these other things that we don't even talk about the music.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And nobody asks me, outside, like, what's your favorite song?
Yeah.
Did you want to ask me what my favorite song?
I don't care. I know what my favorite song is to play.
What's your favorite song to play?
That doesn't matter. No.
This is my interview.
Yeah. No, sure. Yeah, I can. Actually, super quick, before we get into that, I got the Time's Up warning for the radio station. I do an overtime thing that goes out onto the streaming platforms.
Oh, great.
But just super quick, give everybody your social media details, where they can find the Bowie stuff, where they can find the Buble stuff, where they can find Outshout, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll continue on.
Well, just, just Google it up, thebowielives.com. We're all over Facebook. There's an Instagram. There's a Twitter. It's all the Bowie Lives. The Buble stuff is just a Facebook thing. Outshout, entertainment.com, I think. And that's where we're starting to list all the other shows I'm building. And the Buble thing, it's basically like just a Facebook thing right now. We don't really have enough. We're, as we gig, we'll start building some photo and video and all that kind of stuff, and see how what the direction is that we take with that. But and then me, I mean, you can just kind of Google me and I show up. You can just go like Michael Bell singer or something like that, or Michael Bell Canada, or Michael Bell Peterborough, of course. That'll bring you down to find me, which then I link off. I have another website called discovermichael.com that has like all the stuff, my politics, the wire, the blah, blah, blahs. And, it's kind of more about me as a person as opposed to just me as a singer.
Oh, cool.
Guy. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're listening to this on the streaming platforms, there will be links to all these places in the description. They don't have the description link on the radio; it just plays. So, but yeah, check it, and to hear the rest of the conversation, check it out next week. If you're listening on the radio, check it out next week online. If you want to watch the video version, it's on Spotify and YouTube. All right. Thanks a lot, man. We're gonna pause for a couple of seconds and then we'll pick it back up.
Sure.
All right. All right, there we go.
We're back.
And we're back. Having gone absolutely nowhere. Okay, so to answer your previous question, what is my favorite Bowie song to play? You're going to be so pissed. It's Magic Dance.
Oh, that's crazy. You like that part where it breaks down and you get the...
Dude, it's so fun. My favorite part to play in the song is probably the easiest part for me to play, which is that
right.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's a fucking cool part, and
and
it's fun. And my favorite part about playing that song specifically is the crowd's reaction,
right?
Because every time Beauclair does the "You remind me of the Babe," and I do the "pow pow pow power of voodoo," as soon as we do that, there's at least 2 or 3 people that go, oh
yeah, at least.
Yeah. And
I stay corrected on that piece, like, because I fought that in Beauclair forever. I hated it, and I'm still not a huge fan. But listen, I love the bit. I love when Cecilia comes out and in the costume, and her and Megan do their bit, and
it's great.
Band rocks it up, and
oh, it's so fun. And when I say there are at least 2 people that go, I mean there are at least 2 people that I can hear audibly gasping. Sure. I'm sure there are more. And at the last show too, God damn it, where were we? Fergus. When we were in Fergus, I heard somebody yell out, "No fucking way!" And I was like, "Yeah, awesome." And that just gave me the biggest dumb smile. And that happens at every show. There's at least one person that actually yells out, "No way!" And there are multiple gasps, and just the look on people's faces, that, especially for the ones that know what it is we're doing. Mm-hmm. There are people that's not their generation of Bowie, that they're like, "What the fuck are we listening to?" And I understand that too, but also, my introduction to Bowie was the movie The Labyrinth.
Yeah, sure. For a lot of folks your age. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Yeah. And that's why I kind of missed it, in terms of by that point I was, bored with the guy and wasn't listening anymore, basically.
Yeah, and so that's why within the show, that's my favorite tune. Instrumentally though, it's maybe a toss-up for like what's really fun to play. Space Oddity is always, that is like, I think for 2 reasons. One, because Herbie Flowers was just a bad motherfucker of a musician. That dude was so good. It's an insanely interesting bass. It's so melodic, that line. Also, I never knew how deep that line was until I had to learn how to play it. I never really paid attention to it. I listened to the vocal, and I knew the and the, which is what everybody knows, right? Everybody knows those parts. And then I started listening more deeply and was like, holy shit, this is crazy. It's a toss up between that and maybe Ashes to Ashes. Because I get to play slap and pop.
Yeah.
And it's the only time in the show that I get to play slap, which is fun.
Well, and it drives that song.
It does. It's a super bass heavy tune. it's again, I think because it's a weird song, just like Space Oddity, like it's a weird fucking tune. And same thing with Magic Dance. It's weird. And I think that's probably why I like them so much, is because they're super weird, and I like weird music.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a great thing about playing Bowie.
Well,
right?
yeah,
Like,
there's no shortage of bizarre
things.
Like,
exactly.
even if my part is simple or straightforward in a different tune, somebody else is doing something fucking kooky.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're never at a loss for something interesting to have happen. So the only song that I'm not crazy about, and I'm getting more accustomed to not just having hate for it, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's true. Modern Love.
Oh,
brother. I've never liked that song,
either.
but I'm getting.
I love the way that the audience loves it,
Yeah.
so that gets me through it. But man,
Exactly. Yeah. But, it's
like my least favorite album.
Yeah. And it's that track in particular is hyper repetitive. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm like, okay. Right. And like the bass line's not particularly crazy to play. I mean, and I think all of us have probably spots in the show where we're like, oh, snooze. But when you see people just go like, bah! Okay. And that gives you the energy to get through, right? I used to fucking hate playing Gene Genie, but now that I can just play harmonica and not play bass,
that's a real moment too.
Yeah,
it's a great thing you guys worked up there.
It's
with
fun.
Alana playing the bass.
And she's killing it.
Yeah,
she's doing a great job, and it frees me up to play way more interesting lines on the, like, I'm actually taking quite a few liberties with the harmonica part. But like,
David would appreciate it.
Well, I thought so, you know, and it's like, and also almost no one hires me to play harmonica. Right. Like, a lot of people don't even know I play it.
Right.
And I'm actually a pretty decent harp player.
No kidding.
And I never get to showcase. Well, I shouldn't say never, but it's extremely rare that I get to showcase it. And if I have to play bass and harmonica at the same time, I was simplifying both lines to make it happen. Sure. And I was like, man, I feel like such a dud right now. So to have my hands free and to be able to actually kind of
come out front with it, and all that kind
and
of stuff,
just like go a little more wild with it. Like, I'm not going completely balls out, but it's it's a lot more hyped up than it was. So, and now for me, that moment is really fun. Whereas before I was like, I fucking hate doing it, because with the yoke, I don't know if have you ever done harmonica with the yoke? So you know the problem. Then the second you go to put your face on it, it starts, eventually those threads start to slide, and you're chasing the yoke the whole time. It's like, Jesus Christ. And I have to stand like a fucking statue so that it doesn't move, and it just I hate, like, it was physically uncomfortable, so I didn't like doing it. But now it's a hoot. Although I think maybe because of all the Buble stuff we've been doing, I think, man, I don't know, Under My Skin might be one of my favorite things to play right now.
That's such a great song. It's always been one of my favorites.
It's so good. And the bass line is so sick, dude. It's so fucking rad. I love it. I absolutely love the bass line in that. It's like, during the verses, for the most part, it's that same line. It's an E flat 9 chord, and on the bass, the other instruments change around it so that the intervals that the bass is playing create different harmonies. Is really cool. But as just the bass player, you're playing the root, the 5th, and the 9th of an E flat, but then every time it starts to shift a little bit, then the bass, as a lot of jazz tracks have this, as the track progresses, the line opens and gets fucking crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. And by the end of the song, it's almost like goddamn bass solo, which is so fun to do. And everybody's got heavy duty parts in that track. Like, there's nothing, like, nobody's slacking in that song. And I think that's why I like it so much. It's
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Well, it's very close to the original, and quote unquote original arrangement, the Nelson Riddle arrangement, right?
Right, yeah.
And yeah, so it's a big song. Like, there's, I played high school bass.
Right.
I played
Yeah,
all
that's
stage band. We won a national stage band thing. Like,
Oh, cool.
I had some, and which I'm, starting to recapture and regenerate in myself. Some good bass chops back in the day, and you recognize that this material, any kind of the swing bass parts, are so fun because they're not only moving the music and the beat through, but they tend to be a bit of the melody themselves, and as opposed to, as you were saying, like with us as a root player,
Yeah.
just learning how to walk on the bass. I played string bass, like upright,
Yeah,
double bass
yeah.
for the longest time too, and just learning to walk the scales basically. Keeping keeping the vibe rolling and keeping the swing happening, and just playing slightly behind, and
Yeah, you can't drop the groove. Doesn't matter how cool your note choices are.
You are it, basically.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Everything else comes around the bass when you're playing
That
big
kind
band,
of
as
stuff.
far as I'm concerned, like
I'd agree, but I'm biased.
No, well, and me too. Playing it as a kid, you just realize, well, if I drop out, like, this whole thing falls apart because everybody's just, boop, boop, throwing their little shots in and this and that, and and then the melody being the vocalist, obviously, back in the day when they wrote big melodies, right?
Yeah. It's that's an interesting thing too. I was listening to you know who Rick Beato is.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing a breakdown of some Beatles stuff, and he was talking about some of these wild interval jumps of a sixth or greater. And he's like, that doesn't really happen anymore in a lot of modern, specifically in modern pop music.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really happen. He's like, at best, you're going to get a fifth.
Well, did you see the one that you did with Sting not so long ago?
I did.
And Sting going on about just how there's no bridge left any longer. And in songwriting in the day, you always took the bridge on as like I think something that's happened within the lyric, modern lyric compared to, ancient lyric, is that, back in the day, you were really trying to tell a story, where now it's just kind of like you're just, painting a vibe about how you feel, and here's a bunch of lines coming out. There's no like, this is where the story starts, this is the trajectory of the story, and then this is how it ends.
Yeah.
And the bridge, as Sting was saying, always is that kind of like, even if the song is all about love lost or breakup or whatever, that the bridge kind of gives you that opportunity to go, but it's maybe not all so bad, and maybe I learned from this or whatever. It's this kind of moment where you can step out of the dark and then into the light a little bit, and then you can come to the end of your song, which you hope that the song ends as an up, that the sentiment it's leaving is up.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of missing in the classic songwriting sort of way of
you got
3-chord song kind of Sam Smithy kind of world, if I could use him as an example of a guy who can take 3 chords and manipulate 3 or 4 different melodies that are all kind of catchy. It's not like he doesn't
for sure.
I don't know where he's at now, but after he had his little run of stuff, or Ed Sheeran for that matter,
Yeah.
Although he tends to tell a little bit more of a story, but all these guys tend to be 3-chord guys.
Yeah. For sure, and I would say that his storytelling is a lot more on the lyrical side as opposed to the instrumental side.
Yeah. You could tell he's a acoustic folk artist, at the root of it, probably cut his teeth listening to James Taylor and Cat Stevens.
Man. Dude, I love James Taylor.
Sure.
He's great.
Oh.
But like, nowadays you don't really get a whole lot of I don't know, The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel.
You don't get you
don't get a lot of those anymore.
No.
Bublé's
kind of got it going on a little bit, having learned those couple of new tunes of his. the newest stuff, you know. I mean, and not even, you know, haven't met you yet, whatever. Like there's, you know, there's lines to remember. Like there are some good lyric writing, and there's a number of, you know, just, you know, it's not 3 or 4 words a line, and then first, you know, second verse, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And I will say it's a lot more than 3 chords.
Yeah, well, for
it's
sure.
a lot more than 3 chords. Holy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just haven't met you yet as an example. Like to lift that bass line, what I feel is quite accurate. Took me, well, not just the lift, I guess to lift and memorize. Took me about 10 hours.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
Well, especially if you're not steeped in the stuff. Like if it's not like, oh, this is on my playlist, I listen to this shit all day long.
Oh,
anyways,
yeah.
You know?
I hadn't heard that song since it was new.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, this is just, Bublé's not a dude that is typically on my radar other than around Christmas. You know, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I think he's an awesome singer, and I think that whoever his arrangers are, those cats got it going on.
Yeah,
holy
for sure.
shit.
Well, hometown boy Peterborough, Greg Wells, he has a lot to do with that stuff, you know.
Right. That's
from the mixing and the arranging and the playing
is Wells an arranger?
I would think so.
Oh wow.
Like I don't know what all his credits are, but
I know he's involved with Bublé, but I didn't. Okay, cool.
You know, I'd have to go look specifically at the thing,
liner
but
notes,
I mean they're buddies, right? So for him to be sitting in the studio with Bublé and then not say, you know, oh, what if we, you know, dropped a horn shot here and another, you know, burp, burp, and then just does it and then goes, what do you think of that? Kind of, I'm sure that's happening all day long with the guy, right?
Sure.
So
yeah, but it's like, man, it's so wild, like the counterpart between all the different instruments and how many layers there are. It is on almost every single track. I think probably the most stripped down one is probably You Don't Know. No, because You Don't Know Me's got a fuck ton of strings on it.
Well, they're all but again,
I'm trying to even.
They're very much the throwback to Nelson Riddle. So if you listen to that guy's arrangements, you know, he's always arranging horn lines against horn lines, counter melodies, all that kind of stuff. So this is all of the, you know, and I mean, I would just use him because he is like the Sinatra, you know, milestone or whatever. But I mean, you go back and start to listen to, you know, Benny Goodman, you start to listen to, you know, Glenn Miller.
Oh, yeah, dude. Fucking Moonlight.
Count Basie. Like any of that kind of early big band stuff that came out of the 30s and the 40s. Like, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like, and these guys are just winging it. Like when you see these docos and stuff about that period. Yeah. There'd be somebody, you know, like Glenn Miller, like, I mean, you know, he's a trombone player, so he would write all the arrangements for the horn guys and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of them are just kind of making up counter melodies and, you know, while they're out on the road, they're writing this shit in the bus and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, and then Nelson Riddle comes from that school of discipline, you know. Yeah. So everybody's got the where I came from thing. And, but I think that's kind of what they're trying to emulate is this.
Yeah, well, they do a good job of it.
Yeah, absolutely,
like
right?
It's so killer.
And it's a tough gig to be, you know, who would imagine, like, that was part of what intrigued me when I first came back out and Bublé was just sort of starting up in a real way, was, you know, who would imagine that you could sing swing big band love songs and be a major star, too? Yeah,
especially at that time, because that would have been... When Bublé was really first starting to break, that would have been in the 90s,
yeah,
right?
Late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
So it's like that whole scene of being a crooner really seemed like a thing of the past,
absolutely
right?
did.
And so, but in a way, it's not.
I mean, there were crooners, but they were singing pop songs. Well, they were playing swing.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. No big band stuff. Yeah. It's fun. And what's neat, too, is like, I haven't played jazz since I left school, you know?
Right.
So Admittedly, some of my
That's
jazz chops are a little rusty.
It's a
but,
different sensibility for sure.
Oh, big time. Well, the whole reason I even went to school for jazz was my thought process was this will help my rock and roll.
Right.
To understand all this theory and to build up these chops, I'll just apply it back into rock music.
And it's truly not jazz in that way.
That's
like
true.
when I think of jazz, I think of like just kind of free form.
Well, there's a lot of, but I mean, like, that's like rock music. There's so many subgenres,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Jazz is a
Exactly.
pretty umbrella term.
Yeah.
So-
I tend to think of it's like, middle of the road kind of adult contemporary.
Sure. So it's not Dave Brubeck.
Yeah, exactly. It's not Miles Davis. It's not Thelonious Monk. It's not crazy, stuff.
Yeah.
It's like these are very structured songs, and the parts are, for the most part, pretty structured. And
those a lot of those
a bridge
artists
and a chorus, and
but I mean, a lot of those artists that you just mentioned, while maybe some of their stuff, I guess, breathes more, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
It's all still really structured. There'll be a head, there'll be an A section, there'll be a B section, there'll be a bridge.
It's true.
And it's, it all comes back to the head. It's just in those moments, it'll be, instead of, okay, sing this verse, it's like, I'm going to play a guitar solo.
Well, that's the thing. It's just not
over these changes for like 3 minutes. It's just not a lyric.
Right. That's it. It's not vocal centric.
Yeah.
Is the way I would think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then also it's, the melody is going to change, like, not the melody, because that's the head, but like if there's a verse section or the A section, they're probably improvising that, so it's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
Every single night.
Exactly.
But everything underneath it needs to be the same.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's just
nobody knows where they're going.
Yeah. Now, if you're getting into that freeform shit, though, that's
right.
That can be tough to sit with. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Like,
I could pretend I don't play piano too.
Yeah, but or
which
maybe,
is no joke, because, like, as a side note, I used to go out and play a few solo lounge gigs this is way back in the beginning. I think I played Elmhurst once or something, and they had a big grand piano in their dining room. They hired me to play, and I didn't play, and all I did for the entire time was, like, I would just, like, plunk a chord down, do 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 do. Do, like, whatever. Like, I would just, like, play notes. They didn't have to be anywhere. They'd have to, and it was like, this is jazz. And then I would end. Then I would, hit a big note and then lift my hands off it. Thank you. And people would, because they were convinced I was a genius.
Right.
Like, wow, this guy is so outside.
Right. Yeah. It's like those. What was the dude's name? He got his kid to finger paint some shit, and and sold it as abstract art, and people were like, "Oh,
this
it's
is
genius!" It's like, my 4-year-old did this, and the one dude did it with, I think it might have been he got a chimpanzee to do it, and all these highfalutin, all these highfalutin douchebags with their nose in the air,
yeah.
Well, you can tell by the use of negative space. Like, no, it was a fucking chimp in a diaper, you dope.
Right.
It's like,
well, I could, and if the guy, he'll never hear your podcast, and I won't mention his name, but
probably a good idea.
One time I played with this guy, and we're jamming, and I'm playing guitar at the time, and we're doing, jazz standards, and the guy starts to play. He was a horn player, and he starts to play, and I'm like, what note are you playing? In my head, right? As I cycle through the song or something, the guy's just all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy is genius. This guy is so outside. And then, and I remember, like, after, the first couple of songs where I was just, like, shaking my head because it was just so outside.
Right.
And I'm thinking, and I played with some heavy players in my life, right? And
yeah, sure.
And jazzers, and and I was convinced, like, in that moment. And then at the end of the second song, as I'm going to myself, my God, that was just like, wow, that was just inspired or something. The guy goes, I think I was in the wrong key for that entire song. And I'm like, oh. He goes, what key are we in?
Oh my God.
So it just turned out he couldn't play.
Yeah.
Like he could play, but he wasn't very good.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sort of does go to the principle that some people hold to quite dearly, that there's no such thing as a wrong note.
No, it's truth. And you know what? Listen, as a vocalist in my younger days when I was singing nothing but original material, and I'd be making up melodies as I was on stage and stuff
Sure.
a lot of times, because I've always kind of been a singer that would just, make it up. Like even with the Bowie show, like every once in a while I'd throw in my own notes or whatever,
Yeah, sure.
a bit of a free-for-all kind of dude. And then I would hit some like bad note, bad high note, wrong key, loud as anything, And I learned right away, like just sing it through, like just keep singing that note, and everybody will be convinced it's part of the deal, right? Like I know it's a note in a different key, and it's not the note you thought it would be, but here it is again,
Yep.
And
oh man, I had a buddy that I guess you could call him a teacher, but it was another musician that was older than me. He's like, if you hit a wrong note, because we're playing, so
right.
This was before I started singing, but he's like, if you hit a wrong note, hit it again.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, Hendrix used to do it all the time.
Totally.
And I was like, huh,
Lots
okay,
of dudes.
cool, yeah. But like at the time, I was just so enamored with Hendrix, right? He was
Right.
the end all be all. There was nobody better, and like that kind of thing. And I'm still a massive Hendrix fan to this day, but at the time, like, he was the only guitar player that existed, right? So he's like, Hendrix did it all the time. I was like, okay. And so it's just like, fucking do it again, It's like, wow, that fucking, that flat nine was really dope, dude. That's so cool.
Right.
Like, yep. Totally meant to do that. I wouldn't have expected that over a major chord, but really cool. It's like, uh-huh. Like, oh no.
Hey, just never give it up, right?
Oh yeah, man. Never. It's that's
until you win them, and then you can admit, like,
sure.
all the oh my God, Yeah. Of course, my fallback always now is the old man moment.
I was
right?
just gonna say. Did you guys catch that old man moment I just had?
Yeah, singing this song for 50 years, and I screw up the lyric again. Sing the second verse first, and the first verse second. And,
Yeah, but if you've already won them over by that point,
well, that's it.
Once they're on your side, you're good.
Exactly, and that's the thing, and that's it gets us back to what bands need to develop, and it's not always just about like being tight and being those things are great, and your ability to play is great and all that kind of stuff, but the number one thing is always make sure you can endear yourself to your audience right out of the gate, and then they're willing to overlook anything at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we were talking about, I think we were talking about this before the mics were hot, but people hear what they see.
Yeah.
If you've got an air of rock star to you, they'll believe it.
Yeah, and further, that's the a big part of the success of the Bowie show is like everybody in that band is a rock star. It took a while to find everybody. As we did years, Beauclair and I did years of subbing dudes in and out and all that kind of stuff. But in the last few years, having the dedicated show, it's everybody on that stage is a rock star. There isn't a weak link anywhere in the mix,
Yeah, it's
that's rare.
It's a fun lineup.
Yeah,
it's a really fun lineup.
It's rare to find people like that, that especially at our age or my age, anyways, where you go out, you see a lot of these tributes, and it's just a bunch of old dudes just standing at the mic, and and they're like, whatever, I'm going through, I'm doing the Eagles again, or I'm doing whatever I'm doing,
shoegazer shows. Shoegazer shows.
Shoegazer shows, right? Yeah, people on their phone out in the audience and stuff too, right? Where you don't get that with us because there isn't a dull moment where there isn't somebody wigging out on stage or dancing to something or coming out front or showing off or doing,
Yeah. Well, and the bonus is everybody can back it up.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, you got to have that for sure. Yeah, because then you go and you nail some tune that people are like, oh my God, that just sounded like, that was like rah, 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 or whatever. And so then the next tune you're able to screw it up if you have
if it happens.
Yeah, if it happens.
Like, whoa, whoopsie daisies.
Exactly. Nobody cares, right? They're already bought in.
Yeah. Yeah. You just got to make sure that the first like 3 tunes you
really, knock them out.
You pin it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. As I always learned, at the beginning of a set, you hit a big note as a singer, and at the end of I used to do these experiments where, when I was out kind of like pub jazzing and stuff, and I would sing the song, and then at the end of the song, I would like just kind of come down off it, and then people would, oh, yeah, right.
I guess they are done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I learned if I just sang the biggest note and left it to the end.
Yeah.
That's how I do it on some of the Bowie stuff, right? Like just give them that big note at the end. Oh, and then boom, stop, and then the crowd erupts, right?
Yeah.
Because they're brought back into this is the big moment,
Yeah. Well, you're cueing them to go, this is the ending.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we do it so much as I instruct every light guy, turn the lights off after every song.
Yeah.
End of song.
Yeah. Which actually, because of that, I have to, there it is. I have to get an aesthetic mod done to the neck of my bass. I'm going to put
some dots.
I'm going to put luminescent dots. So I have to sand the top of the neck down, put the dots on so I can, because some of the songs we start before the lights come back up.
Right.
And once I'm already playing, I don't need to look, but I got to know where I'm starting because I can't hear anything yet because I haven't played a note. Right. So I'm going to sand the top of the neck off, put the luminescent dots on, and then put the finish back over top. So I got to get that done before next season. So,
well, maybe we'll have a light guy by next season too.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. Anybody out there who's a aspiring light guy or girl,
lighting tech.
Thank you.
There we go.
We're looking for one.
Yeah.
Although it's problematic when you have another woman. We just have the right balance now for hotel rooms.
Yes. Okay.
2 and 2.
2 and 2.
So if
Yeah.
we bring
Yeah.
another woman on board, oh my God, then we need another woman so that we can. Not that I'm opposed to that, but you've got to balance those hotel ecoms.
Yeah. And then the budget starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Or the pay gets less and less and less.
Well, that too. Yeah. Oh. Well, I meant the budget for you.
Yeah,
of
course. Yeah.
That is. It's funny because I've got my own solo project. In some ways, being the captain of the ship is, it's very rewarding. It's really fun. But then also you're immediately reminded of all the headaches of being the captain of the ship. You're like, holy fuck, sometimes just being a sideman is so much easier.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
So
I'm playing bass in this Blondie thing I was telling you that I'm putting together, Talking Heads and Blondie review, and it's just so great, And then when Mr. Beauclair said, well, maybe the Blondie's the headliner, not the Talking Heads thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, she can carry it. You're probably right. Like, it would be great to open with the Talking Heads and then close with the Blondie. And then I would just have to play bass in the final set. Yeah. And wow, wear a wig and some sunglasses and a suit and pressure's off, basically.
Oh, dude, I didn't even mean in terms of performance. I meant in terms of dealing with logistics.
Oh, well, that part, yeah. Well, that can be, well, it is for me. It's a full-time, everyday, hours a day, whether it's, the hour of social media crap. I don't mean crap, but,
just the slog of doing it.
Finding venues, dealing with venues, insurance, blah 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 blah. Like and then on top of it, it's the stress of like, am I going to lose money on this?
Yeah.
Because the level that we're at, the nut can be $8,000.
Yeah, I'm not contending with those kind of numbers. Like my loss is like, do I have to pay the band out of my pocket?
Yeah.
Like, because I'm not renting rooms.
Yeah, yeah.
For
well,
my
even
stuff,
that,
but-
right?
Yeah, that sucks, but it's not $8,000.
No, well, I mean, that's your starting point. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to sell tickets.
Yes,
and
of course,
whittle that cost down. But I mean, that's where you start every time is like, okay, do I have the confidence in this room, this venue, this marketplace? I have complete faith in the band and and its abilities. But, you know, is this going to be, you know, are we going to sell enough tickets to, or as I used to say in the festival business was, you know, you may need 1,000 tickets to break even.
Yeah.
And if you sell 1,000 tickets, you know, or if you sell 990 tickets, that's still like great. Like that's huge. But there's 10 tickets unaccounted for at $100. So you have just worked, you know, your entire maybe 6 months on a festival, plus the weekend of a festival where you 24/7 for 4 days, and at the end you're digging into your pocket, pulling $1,000 out to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so it has, you know,
all that work to lose money.
All that work to lose money. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it happens, you know, like that's just the business, right? Like, it doesn't always. You know, we've done well. We've been lucky, but I know other band guys that have, you know, taken the stab at the theater market and just hasn't paid, and they've lost their deposits, and they've, you know, or they've gone in and played for nobody and in a big room, and that's bad for everybody's vibe. And
the morale just sinks, man. Like I've only ever experienced a theater show one time where there was like nobody there, basically, and doesn't matter who I was playing for, but there was like nobody there.
Horrible.
And it was like, cool, thanks for hiring me. I'll see you guys later. And the next time I got called from them, I was like, you know, I'm really busy.
Right.
I'm really busy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so, and it was just, Now, on the flip side of that, I've also, because we were talking earlier about how important the hang is in the green room, which is, I mean, for anything, it's like any work environment. If you go to work and you're like, oh my God, it's this group of fucking dickheads, you're never going to have a good time and it's going to suck. But if you're like, I can't wait to see my friends, then that's a totally different and very lovely experience. And it can be the difference between, you know, we're playing in a tiny place, but I'm having an absolute riot, and maybe we had to drive 4 hours to get here, but it's so fucking worth it. And or you could be like, man, I'm playing this huge place, and like everybody in the crowd thinks we're like unmitigated rock stars. This is the coolest thing. But the people that are standing next to you are like, I want to punch you in the face. And you're just like, fuck, I hate this. I fucking hate this. It doesn't matter how cool it is, man. Like, I'm sure you've had these experiences too.
Not of late, but certainly.
Well, yes, it's
when
been a
I was
while.
a teenager.
Yeah.
Strobic Axe.
Like, oh, really?
Oh my God, that band was, and we were all at each other's throats.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And despite the fact that we spent every day together because we rehearsed every day after school.
Right.
And you know, and we kind of toured, quote unquote, a little bit. You know, like we took trips. We went up to Thunder Bay and got fired.
Bro, yeah, you told me.
That's a great story, right? Broke up with our girlfriends, said goodbye, big summer tour, eight dates, coming back, you know, 2 months solid, and then get to the first gig, and they fire us the first night and send us home. The agent drops the entire tour. We have to go back. We're home in 3 days, you know, like, and everybody's like, what happened? Apparently we were an original punk band, you know. But,
God.
But yeah, that band had a lot of
infighting.
Well, and I could tell you stories of like when we're on stage.
What?
And like somebody goes through the drum kit, you know, or throws something or throws a punch, or, you know, like while we're on stage.
Smokes.
Yeah, there was a lot of It was an intense show. That was part of what made that show work, I think, too, though, because it was so filled with anger and punky.
Right. So you're just unhinged.
We were so unhinged. Everybody doing their own thing, and nobody's paying attention to the other guys. And,
oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds like a fucking nightmare to
me,
me,
was
man.
a bit of a nightmare. But it had, like, it worked. Like, you know, we had great success that show, and
so
played some iconic clubs, and we'd fill up, you know, and we did a lot of self shows too. We would rent like a Legion or something like that in the town, sell our own $2 ticket and
$2 tickets.
Yeah, $2 tickets or $5 at the most, you know, those kind of worlds. And
that's crazy.
But yeah, we were just kids. I think.
Of course.
Jesus, like I was the oldest guy at 18.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And the youngest kid was 14.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. So like we weren't the most mature group of and then of course, you know, we had a record and we were stars, so that all went to our heads too.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
If it wasn't for me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I'm the real brains of this operation.
You fucking guys, you know. Once they fired me and fell apart, they understood who the real
Oh my God, hilarious.
Yeah.
I've only ever been in 2 bands where I was involved with physical confrontation.
Right.
Only ever twice. And one of them, I didn't actually. I never. Well, for the one situation, never threw a punch. Dodged some, and kept some other guys from hitting each other.
Right.
There was one other time where I clocked it, dude. Allegedly.
On stage.
No, never on stage.
No, okay.
Never on stage. It was allegedly.
Well, see, you were never a punk.
No,
if you were a punk, then that was all.
I was in metal bands,
right?
But you know what's funny? The heaviest, the most hardcore instrumental shit I ever played was with the most docile fucking dudes.
Yeah, right.
And then it was like the kind of like poppier shit was like where the real.
Egos.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, right.
And and there was. Maybe or maybe not somewhere on tour in a hotel room, somebody might have hit me one too many times while I was sleeping, and I might have cracked.
Oh my God!
And I might have cracked him in the face.
Right.
Maybe.
No, I don't. We never had that stuff. We all traveled well together. The acts, like we had no problem. You know, Al always drove, and you know, we had the van and blah 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 and all that. You know, we were all doing that kind of thing, but. It was on stage that we used to have the problems.
So crazy.
Because we would yell songs that Al would go, "We're playing this," and then somebody would be like, "I don't want to play that." It's like, "Oh, it's our hit." And,
Holy
there was all that kind of crazy
dude.
shit, or you know, yelling at me because I'd screwed up the words again or something. You know, it's just like poor Al. You know, as a songwriter, I don't think I ever got any of his lyrics perfect, and he'd always be like, "Oh man."
You're fucking my lyrics are like my children, man.
Totally. You're like, your fucking lyrics are depressing me, man. You know, I don't want to use the word sad. I want to use the word glad.
Right. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Yeah, never got in a fist fight on stage. I did. Again, maybe this is real for legal reasons. Maybe this happened, or maybe it didn't.
Right.
There might have used to have been a place called the Irish House.
Lindsay?
Possibly. Doesn't really matter where it was.
Okay. I know this.
Just in case. Maybe it's all make-believe. Maybe it was just a dream.
Right.
But we were playing this show and in my dream, and we were doing crosstown traffic, but there was it fades out on the record. So, and we would learn shit and then just go play it like that night.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we hadn't worked out an ending, and we're playing crosstown traffic, and this crazy brawl breaks out. And
in the room.
Right. Yeah. Not on stage, but like the room is going fucking haywire. And we had to bring the PA system. And this one drunk dude was going to grab actually one of these monitors, and he was going to toss it at somebody. And the floor of the stage happened to be right around chin level. and somebody on the stage might have soccer kicked that dude right in the chops. And he just went down. And the bouncer picks him up like a sack of grain, just goes, "Thank you." Right out the door. And it's like dead silent, right? And I'm looking at, so it was with Devin and this other guy named Ben on drums. Fucking awesome drummer. And really good dude too. Great singer, just killer musician. And we're looking at each other. It's like, oh my God, what do we do? And I'm like, I have an idea. And one of two things is going to happen. Either everybody's going to laugh and this is going to turn into a great fucking party, or the kerfuffle is going to start up again. I was like, we got to do Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. And Devin's like, dude, no. And I'm like, just play the riff, man. Just do it. He cuts into the riff, and luckily the whole room in my dream starts laughing.
Right.
And then the rest of the night is just a total party, and it was great. But there was a second where we're like, holy shit. And in some ways, I'm kind of glad that fight broke out, because we had no ending for Crosstown.
Right.
So we just kind of stopped playing, and we're like,
how convenient.
Yeah, right. It's like, whew, kind of Saved by the Bell, but also don't throw my gear.
Yeah.
So, but that might not have happened.
I hear you.
Legally.
I know those might not have happened deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Apparently that place, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Because it might not
Doesn't
actually.
even exist.
It doesn't even exist. I'll tell you.
There's some guy out there that's like had a broken jaw for the last 20 years.
Yeah,
He's like,
drinks through his straw.
I heard that podcast. It was that guy.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't real. It was a fever dream.
Right.
Or like maybe I was hallucinating, because, you know, in my youth,
Sure.
we do things. You know what? Actually, that might be past the statute of limitations, because that was like 20 years ago. So if it happened at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, at least you were like, back in the punk day where people spat on each other.
Oh, that's so gross.
Oh my God, man.
So gross.
And it's like, they love us.
Yeah.
You know, we're playing Larry's Hideaway and they're spitting on us. They love us.
I never understood that. Do you remember the Trashateria?
Yeah.
So there was a band that a couple of my buddies were in, and the lead singer would spit on people. And
Hugh Dillon from the Headstones.
Oh, really?
Oh man, he was a horrible spitter.
Oh, that's so, like, I understand if you're singing and a little bit of goober fun,
No,
but not just going like
Yeah.
into somebody's face. Like, that's gross.
I don't know that he,
You know?
and in his defense, I don't know, because he's a big star now. Maybe he'll sue me, but I don't know that he was like aiming at people, but he just had this kind of,
And just spit on the floor kind of
'cause
idea?
He was so, his whole thing with the Headstones was like, I'm the meanest badass,
Oh, okay. So he
yeah.
had kind of like almost a character of being...
I think it was his true character, to tell you the truth.
Oh, okay.
Like, I dealt
It's
with
not
him
a
a few
put-on?
times, and he wasn't a great guy to work with. He always showed up late and complained about everything. And
That's too bad.
The other guys, Dale and Tim, they were great. Like, working with those guys all the time. They were, I mean, Dale's the kind of guy that still likes your internet, your Instagram post of a kitten video or something.
Yeah.
You go, oh, I love that,
Oh, that's cool.
But of course, they never went on to the notoriety that Hugh Dillon did.
Right.
Big TV star now and all that kind of stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah, man.
What show?
What's the latest one he's in? He's been in a bunch of stuff. Like, just Google him. He's been in movies, series. He's like cop things. He's in something right now he's like a cop. Or something that seems to be like his go-to character now. He's kind of balding and everything, like he's, a little pudgy and stuff. He's certainly not I just watched Dance Me Outside the other day. Again, you know this film?
I don't.
He's in it. It's Bruce McDonald's film.
I don't know who Bruce McDonald is.
Canadian filmmaker.
Oh, okay.
Ivan Reitman was actually...
I know who that is.
Well, he produced the film. And
no shit. Okay,
Bruce
cool.
McDonald wrote it and directed it. And Hugh's in it as like, badass, dude, kills and murders a girl and, blah, blah, blah. Like, just as a side note to the movie,
Right.
Yeah, you should watch that. It's a classic.
Dance Me Outside. I'll have to check.
Dance Me Outside, yeah.
All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Rock and roll movie.
Nice. Oh, okay. It's about
sort of. Nah,
sort
I
of?
guess it's not really when I think about it. But I'm thinking like, what was Hardcore Logo? You know that? That's also
I've heard the title,
that's
but
also
I've not
his
seen
film, and that's a rock and roll movie, but
Okay.
about Hughes in that too.
it. Oh, cool.
Yeah. Anyways,
Neat. I'll have to check those out. I think this is coming out. This one might be coming out next week.
in 7 parts.
Yeah. Do you wanna drop any upcoming dates?
Bowie's back on the road in the fall. We've got couple of dates in the spring. We're back in Toronto on the 22nd of March, in Ottawa, April 16th, I think, and Graveners May 30th. And then we're done till the fall, and then we got a boatload of dates in the fall, full on tour. And then Buble, of course, is New Year's Eve. We'll launch it on New Year's Eve with Liza Bassiano as Adele and myself as Michael Bublé, and then we're just starting to conjure up dates for that, and those two, and then keep an eye out for the Blondie, Parallel Lines, and Stop Making Sense. That'll be my newest review.
Okay.
And that'll be like probably summer, late fall, or late spring, I should say.
Stop Making Sense is the Talking Heads.
Yeah, it's the Talking Heads.
Yeah.
And and then if you're a player out there with the idea that you'd like to build a review or a tribute, and you've got a good idea of the players or something, feel free to contact me, because I'm always looking. I'd like to build in the next 5 years. I'd like to build 10 shows that'll be out there without me in them. Just 10 other shows that I can book and promote and market and brand and build some brands out of. And so I mean, that's basically all I've got on. I'm not doing anything else anymore. Like,
Right.
Politics are gone, and
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even get into any of that.
yeah, I'm pretty quiet about that stuff these days, especially since my daughter is running the Ontario Green Party these days.
So probably not a bad idea to recuse yourself a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Since I'm not on the side of the Greens. I mean, I'm still on the side of the Greens. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
I mean, every time there's an asshole that's in governance, it's more important for me to work with the opposition that could actually defeat them.
Sure.
Than it is if it was an easy, like if I thought the Liberals were just going to waltz into another majority or something like that, I'd throw all my stuff in behind the Greens. But given that they're like they're having their issues, and it could actually be a conservative minority or something, it's like, no, I got to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen, and it's not going to be by splitting the vote with the Greens. And I mean, I've run, I shouldn't say this probably, but, everybody in the Green Party kind of knows, but I've run campaigns where I've literally voted for another party after running my own candidate as a Green, or even when I ran.
Right.
Second time I didn't vote for myself,
Right.
And I got chastised on one campaign by Elizabeth May for, my shenanigans, and I said to her, well, if Peterborough loses, like if we become conservative and it's, we lose by, like the Liberals lose by 200 seats, and I've got 220 votes as a Green, I'm going to be pissed off, because those 220 should have gone over to whoever could have. I mean, I ended up as a national headline because of Win Harper. I went on record saying, I don't give a fuck about the Green Party. I want Stephen Harper defeated,
Yeah.
And that's, of course, when I got my phone call from Elizabeth May. But,
Yeah, that would do it.
yeah, that would do it. But it was true. It was, it was country before party as far as I was concerned, And we had no, we still don't have any, we're not forming a government, Greens. Yeah. It's just important that we're there in the dialogue, and that we're, as we used to say, like, this is an educational thing. I'm here, or I ran candidates, or stayed involved with the Greens to give them a reality where they could stand in front of people and with the other parties and espouse green values and give green solutions and then, but most often it was like, but don't vote for me, vote for that guy,
Sure.
or Betsy or whoever it was that I was running on the federal level with, was like, vote for them because they look like they could beat the conservatives. And number one agenda, no conservatives, because
Sure.
we see what they're up to.
I don't talk too publicly about any of that stuff.
No, I get it.
It's just not my. I mean, also, why would anybody listen to me? I'm a fucking bass player. Like, you know what I mean? My guitar doesn't even have 6 strings on it, man. Don't listen to any of my political views. I'm a fucking dunce. So, if I'm talking about music or martial arts, that's my wheelhouse.
Right.
But I'm more than happy to listen to other people talk about it, and I think it's important for there to be a dialogue and an open one. But for my personal opinions and stuff like that, I keep all that shit to myself.
Yeah, well, I would love a dialogue. There just doesn't seem to be one. Like, it's not like the days of Mulrooney or something where guys actually kind of had respect for each other and they were, chatting and like even this thing with Trudeau going down and having this meeting with Trump, and then he comes back and has a meeting with the other leaders, and then they all just start to slag him, like slagging Trudeau about, oh, well, you weren't talking to us before, now you're talking to us or something. Well, hello, like, is that constructive, like, for a national debate or a national discussion? It was like, I don't know, whatever. I just,
Yeah.
I listen, and I know I've been lucky with the Bowie because I don't believe that there would be many Bowie fans that would vote conservative, so they probably like my, my conservative
political
views. Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Now the Buble might be a bit of a different story,
We'll see.
We'll see, exactly.
It's weird. I find it a difficult waterway to navigate, considering I've never talked openly about any of that kind of stuff, and I don't want it. And it's not that I'm trying to be a fence sitter, or it's just it was such a big part of growing up. Like, you don't talk about politics and religion because it's such a touchy subject for so many people.
Right.
And I obviously I swear a lot, so I don't care about upsetting people with that.
Right.
But I don't know. It's weird. I just, my whole life, when something's hammered into you, don't talk about these things. It's like, zerp.
Right.
And I should probably learn how to discuss those ideas openly without feeling so weird about it, because I wouldn't be surprised if it comes up more and more on the show, depending on who the guest is. And I have no problem if people want to talk about whatever, like, that's totally cool. But I don't know. It immediately feels like I'm getting ready to jump into a cold plunge or something, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do it. So I should probably work on it. But
and especially because people want you to have all the answers, and
I have
and if
zero.
you don't have the answers, then it's like, well, then you're not allowed to have an opinion about it.
Right.
And oddly, when I was on the stump, at debates and all candidates meetings and stuff like that, if I didn't know, I would just say, I don't know.
Right.
And I had more people come up to me and say, it was so refreshing for you to tell us that you didn't have an answer for this,
Yeah.
And it's like, well, isn't that interesting, right? Like, you get the kudos for admitting that you don't know fuck all, about something, right? Or, in my case, it might just be a certain policy in the Greens that I didn't know, or what the Conservatives were up to, or what the Liberals were saying in that moment about some particular, how many cows are we allowed to have?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it up. I'm not going to segue and pivot to something else and go, well, speaking of cows, the cost of milk is too high and we've got the acting government to blame, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is unfortunately what's been happening. That's why I'm saying, there is no discussion anymore. There is no dialogue. It's just all finger pointing and pivoting to
Yeah.
to try to, throw shade on somebody else's. No solutions. Like, you look at the conservatives, they got no solutions. They got nothing but he's a corrupt politician, Trudeau, and he lies and he does this, and the whole thing is, and it's the most, it's classic Trump, it's the most it's ever been in the entire world, and everybody knows it, these kind of generalizing, fucking nothing. It's like, okay, well, what would you do?
Right.
Well, I wouldn't listen to them, I'll tell you that right now, because they're corrupt, and, no, but what would you do? Well, I tell you right now what I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, as kind of a blanket thing for me, I'm never surprised by any politician doing anything that I would never do personally.
Yeah, but it's two different kinds of people. Like, literally, like I have this thing, and not to keep going on and on about this, but I have this thing about there are two kinds of people in the world. And there are those who think of themselves first and
Sure.
those who think of others first.
Right.
And I think, our politics have been, moved into those camps. And I tend to find that the people that sit on the left, who are more, quote unquote, socially minded, tend to be people who think of the collective good before they think of the personal good. And so that there is, there are people who just get into politics. Like, I believe I'm one of them. And I would suggest that the Greens and the NDP, for that matter, who never really, like I used to always say, the difference between me and these three people, when I was in an L candidates thing or something, I'd go,
Sure.
The difference between me and these three is they actually think they have a chance to get a job out of this.
Right.
So they're going to tell you whatever it takes to get that job.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to get this job. I'm under no delusion that I'm going to be elected your representative. So let me tell you the things that you don't want to hear.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective to be in. So those people who go out, Greens especially, who go out feeling like they don't have a chance, but they're going to fight the good fight anyways. They're going to put all their time into this. They're going to put money into this. They're going to go, because I'll tell you, like, having run 2 federal elections for myself and then being involved in provincial and other federal elections, that's a lot of work. Like, when people ask me, would I run this time or something, I'm like, I don't have the time. Like, I literally don't have the time. Like, if you want to, dedicate every 4 nights a week to all candidates debates for the next 3 months or something, like plus
Yeah.
all the door knocking and this and this and this and this. Like, it's a full-time job in the end.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You come home from work and, go to work.
Yeah.
And it takes special people that are willing to do that.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily like thinking, if I get this job, I get to, like, corrupt something that benefits me.
Right.
Which a lot of people on the other end of it,
Yeah.
they want to write laws that benefit themselves. They want to, they're their friends. They don't want to,
Yep.
necessarily look at the big picture of things and go, okay, well, that might make me pay $10 a year more, and that's their problem, as opposed to, no, like, all these old people get fucking dental care or whatever,
Right.
Well, it doesn't affect me. I can pay for my own dental care. Like, what kind of answer is that, right? So, anyways,
Yeah.
that's politics.
Yeah. I'd rather play bass.
Me too. I'd rather be David Bowie.
Yeah, right. It's more fun.
It is
It's
more
and
fun.
less depressing.
Yeah, exactly, because it's just nothing but good vibes coming,
Yeah. Yeah.
off the floor and after a show.
Oh yeah, man. Especially after there were a couple of people that came up and named every person in the band.
Right?
And it was actually kind of an interesting moment.
They've been paying attention. They've been following. And
I don't know who these people were, but they've obviously seen the show multiple times.
there are lots of people who have seen the show multiple times. I mean, you just have to go and look at our comments and stuff. Oh, 4th time seeing the show, 6th time seeing the show,
Yeah.
Like,
That's wild.
Maybe there wouldn't be they wouldn't, if there were other Bowie tributes, they may have seen us three and them three or something, but
Sure.
we're the only game in town, really. So
Yeah.
So if you're a Bowie fan, I guess, we're it, sadly. No, not sadly.
No, it's a good show.
Yeah,
it's a good
show.
and I don't think I'm being biased when I say that.
No. It's enough people have said it's a good show that we can believe them.
Well, my brother Devin came and saw us in Lindsay.
Right.
And now, again, this is also going to sound probably a little bit biased, but my brother's a phenomenal musician.
Absolutely.
Like, he's a killer guitar player. He's a good singer, and he's also very, very honest.
Right.
If I show him something that he thinks is dog shit, he does not hesitate to tell me that.
Yeah, sure.
And he came up at the end of the show and he was like, "That was fucking awesome."
Right.
So, and he had glowing reviews about it. So that is a critique that I take very seriously. And he was ecstatic about how the show was, because he hadn't seen it since one of the bands that I used to be in opened for the Bowie show at Market Hall.
Right.
Years and years and years ago, before I was in the band.
Right.
And that was the last time he'd seen it. And he's like, "Dude, that's not even the same show." And I was like,
of course.
"No, it's not.
No.
It's a very different one now."
Yeah.
And he didn't know there were dancers and like the whole shtick that's going on now. He was like, "Dude, this is fucking crazy." He's like, "The circus came to town."
The circus came to town, exactly.
Yeah.
A Bowie spectacular.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And so it's it is a good vibe, and that's why I don't do politics. I want people giving me high fives and back pats, man. I don't want people calling me a piece of shit.
Yeah, egging your car on the way out.
Right? Yeah. I don't want bumper stickers that say "fuck Dawson McManus" on it. I like it when strangers come up or when 80-year-old ladies come up and tell me tell me they enjoy my physique upstairs and down. What a brazen old bird she was. That was great. That was so funny. Oh my goodness.
Well, you get to the age where you just don't care anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like, say whatever you want.
Yeah, this might be my only opportunity. She took it. She gave me a little pinch too. She gave me a little pinch.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Can I just feel it?
And she grabbed my bum. It's like, all right. Not as weird as the squirrely dude at Ground Control. Did Beauclair tell you about that? So we're leaving because remember the pack out of Ground Control though? You had to walk through we played this club, awesome club downtown Toronto. It's all Bowie themed and everything. Queen West, right? Yep. It's a really cool club, and it's where we ended Bowie Fest 2024. We're packing out, and this guy grabs me, and I thought he was just going to tell me good show, because that's, when people grab you after a show, that's the typical engagement.
I just wanted to tell you.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, man, really good job. He grabs me, goes, "You're cute," and gives me a great big kiss on the face. And then he sees Beauclair, and he goes to and he just kind of pirouettes out of the way. He's just like, "Nope," dodge that bullet. I was just like, "Oh." And he's like, "Man, I'm really glad you were walking in front of me." I'm like, "I bet you were."
That's funny.
But I definitely preferred the older gal grabbing my bum to the sketchy dude giving me a big slobbery kiss on the face. Oh well. Occupational hazard.
That's it, man. Can't be an attractive dude and not think that's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, see, I thought I was safe because of the face, but apparently not. Alcohol really has an effect on people.
That's for sure.
But can't wait for the next batch of shows, man. It's going to be really fun. Thanks so much for coming over and doing this.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
I've
been listening and wondering when my time to shine was going to be.
So
appreciate it, Dawson.
Yeah, well, for anybody else that's listening and is wondering when you're going to be invited, just do what Bell did and shoot me a message and ask.
Exactly. Hey,
what are you putting me on?
What's it take?
Yeah.
Withhold your pay.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I was like, well, you do sign my checks. But yeah, no. Also, I don't know. Like, fuck, I don't know how long we've been talking for now, but
A
like,
long time.
Yeah,
I'm sure
dude, we've-
people have already gone to sleep.
maybe, but I don't know. These are the kind of conversations we have on
Yeah, it's
on the
good.
drive to shows, and when we were at Gussapalooza, like, those ones got weird too, which was fun. We didn't get into the Anunnaki today, but maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, if anybody wants to hear about space aliens that populated the Earth, we can do it. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dawson.
Have a good night, everybody.
That was fun. Good one. That was fun.